Some technical difficulties here. Okay, there, now I can see me. I hope everyone's doing okay. I see that there's a few people here on the chat already. We've got a big pile of epic collections to go through today. Just absolutely huge. This is only part of it. So we are going to, we're going to be talking about all of the stuff that came out in November and December. And let me tell you, it was a couple of big months. This stack is just really, really large. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look inside each one of these volumes, talk about them. You can leave some comments, and I want to chat with you as you're watching these videos, or as you're watching me go through these books. And we'll do some comparisons of the paper quality, because I know that was the December books are looking a little on the thin side. So how do they compare to the November books, and also some of the other ones that have come before this? And then I've got a special little treat, the Tomb of Dracula complete collection. I know it's not an epic collection, but it's kind of like an epic collection, so I'm going to put that at the very end of the episode as well. So you can see I'm not in my fancy library today, just because my kids are home, and so I couldn't kick them out of the public area. So I got to be in my office, which doubles as my bedroom. But that's what happens when you have to do the whole COVID work from home thing. Okay, here we go. We're going to talk about them in the order I have them stacked here. The first one is going to be Fantastic Four. Now, there were a lot of 90s books. There's a lot of 90s comics in these 2 months. Like we have Spider-Man, we've got Deadpool, Venom, Avengers, Iron Man. All of this is 90s stuff. So if you are a fan of the 90s, these 2 months have probably been really, really great for you. If you are not a fan of the 90s, sorry, I hope you were saving your money for something else, because we've got some good stuff coming up in the future, in the next few months, but maybe not this one. So this is volume 22. It comes right after the volume called the New Fantastic Four. It's the continuation of the Tom DeFalco and Ron Friends. Sorry, not Ron Friends. That's Thor I'm thinking of. Tom DeFalco and Paul Ryan, the late Paul Ryan. They had a great run, I think, through the 90s. It's one of my favorite Fantastic Four runs. And I may be biased because this is the period when I entered reading Marvel Comics. Some of the earliest issues were the ones that I read in here. But I do think that objectively this is a great run. Tom DeFalco has a really, really good handle on character development and long-term storytelling, the whole kind of soap opera drama that goes along with comic books, which we all love. Let's face it, we love the soap opera aspect of comic books. And this one does a good job. Now, I just want to talk about this cover. I'm going to turn on my second camera here. I've got my phone is going to be my second camera, and we're going to take a look at this cover, because a lot of people are like, "Oh, this is the symbol of the 90s right here. Look at that. Isn't that great?" I think it's wonderful, because while it is a representation of the 90s, it also is a very specific point in Fantastic Four history. Let's make this a little bit bigger here. Yes, we've got the guns. Yes, we've got the bomber jackets, like we see we'll talk about the bomber jackets when we're talking about Avengers in a little while. Thing in this big mask here, and Invisible Woman's boob window. All of this is like, oh yeah, this is Fantastic Four in the 90s. Now, what people fail to realize is that these jackets and stuff were only in like 2 issues. This was not the standard Fantastic Four getup. Now, Sue Storm's costume, absolutely, that was part of this run in the 90s, and because she was going through a very big transformation of her character during this time, and this is I liked the reason behind the costume change, and I liked the reason why she stopped using this costume as well. I thought it was just really good storytelling. Oh, Adam Chapman has a good comment here. He says, "So 90s, I love it. I actually like their jackets. Not a fan of the bucket of shame that we're talking about here with the Thing." Now, there's a very big reason why he's wearing that as well. it's also, this is actually when the Fantastic Four first designed their costumes in, like, what was it, Fantastic Four #2, way back in the 60s. This helmet was part of the original design, but then, you know, the Thing decided he didn't want to actually wear it in the end. So let's take a look inside here. This is going to be a really long video if we talk about this at length. So I'm going to actually just kind of flip through a bunch of stuff here. If you're looking at the table of contents, we've got, you know, a lot of great stuff here. This is a period where this is a transition period where Fantastic Four is going from kind of, they've jumped off, they went John Byrne, and then it went to Walter Simonson for a short run, and now it's here. And Tom DeFalco is kind of bringing it back to kind of back to the beginning, kind of a 1960s-esque feel to it, with guest stars and new villains. Tom DeFalco was never really great, in my opinion, at coming up with new villains. So we have this guy here. What is his name? I can't remember. It says on the front cover. Wild Blood. Yeah, there's Wild Blood and Oculus, and this guy right here. They don't stick around. They never really make a big splash. So he's kind of, Tom DeFalco works the best when he's working with characters that are already defined, like Doctor Doom, for instance, and such. Paul Ryan is a spectacular artist. He is not as flashy as some of them, like a John Byrne and such, but his storytelling is solid. His compositions always tell you exactly where the action is, and his layouts, his page layouts, always tell you the flow of action. He is a very, very solid, dependable, and reliable storyteller, or at least he was. Unfortunately, he died at quite a young age, and he's no longer with us. But yeah, this is great stuff. I love it. So there's an annual in here. Let's see if we can find it. Oh, actually, there's this one, Adventures of the Thing. He had a 4-issue miniseries, and mostly it was reprints, but there was one story in here that wasn't a reprint, so they're including it here, which is great to see. It's just a little 4-page thing. And then we get into the Infinity War crossover. This is the story. This is the second Infinity Gauntlet story where the Magus creates doppelgangers of everybody in the Marvel Universe. And so every title had the evil versions of themselves. And that was very, very cool. So that we have that here. There's the evil version of the Thing. Of course, the Avengers, everybody's in this issue, it looks like. So Paul Ryan gets to draw everyone. And then after that, there's Malice, kind of the evil version of Sue Storm, if you want to go in that direction there. It is part of the Infinity War story, after all. Malice is a character from the John Byrne era. Okay, here's what I want to talk about. This is the Fantastic Four Annual number 25. Story with Kang, the Conqueror, Citizen Kang. Now, this only has one part of the story that stretched through a couple of different annuals. And so we don't get the full story, but that's okay. But what we do want to note is that this story is by Herb Trimpe. Mark Gruenwald does the script. Herb Trimpe does the actual drawing here, and he's gone through his own transformation. Herb Trimpe is a guy who reinvents himself many times over the course of his career, and you can see here that he doesn't look at all like what he was doing on the Hulk in the 60s and the 70s. He's trying to be a lot more image influenced at the time, and I believe that this was kind of a suggestion from the top to kind of be more bigger and bolder and bombastic, and it just becomes really cheesecake in a lot of cases. Yeah, here's a good comment. I'm going to highlight this one. Phil says, or as he was known in the 90s, Herb Liefeld. Yes, you can definitely see that there is a Liefeld influence, and a lot of people were doing this because Liefeld was hot. He was so popular at this time. And so if you could tailor your art to be more like that and it would sell more books, then why not? I have no idea if that actually caused this to to sell more books. Who knows? Anyway, I don't want to get too far into here because we have some spoilers, but we do have an excellent rematch between the old Fantastic Four and the new Fantastic Four, which at this time they're called the Secret Defenders because Doctor Strange had his own title at the time, called the Secret Defenders. Oh, Adam Chapman has a comment too. It's not even recognizable as Trimpy. It's fascinating to see his evolution and change. Not many guys can adjust his style this much. Yeah, it is pretty drastic, and I don't know if it, I don't think any of us think it was to his benefit. Anyway, we have there's a significant period where Nathaniel, this is Reed Richards' father, comes into the picture and kidnaps Franklin. And Franklin goes through a transformation of his own. And there's another annual at the end where there's a return of a character that we met in the last volume called Dreadface. More Trimpy artwork. And then, let's see if I can... Hold on a second. Sorry, I need to flip my camera around here so I can use my other hand. And we get some bonus features at the back here. There's a trading card because in this last annual, all of the annuals of that year in 1993 tried to introduce a new superhero that were going to be like the next big thing. And in this annual, it was what was her name? Wild Streak. And I don't think any of those superheroes became popular or anything. We got some swimsuit pinups, Christmas pinup, and an article. And there we go. That's our Fantastic Four Epic Collection. Now, I just want to say that this is a book that has some really nice, thick quality paper to it. And I'll be comparing this and a couple of the other November books to the December books later on. But this is a nice, thick Epic collection. It's called This Flame, This Fury. Okay, let's go on to the next one. More 90s goodness for us. Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man. This book is called Lifetheft. There's a good cast of characters at the bottom here. David Michelini, J.M. DeMatteis, Mark Begley, and Stephen Butler. And this cover is taken from an Ashcan, which is a small comic, like a comic preview kind of. And they've used it for the cover here. The Ashcan was colored like this. So this is the original coloring. It hasn't been recolored for the Epic collection at all. This is volume 26. And we have Amazing Spider-Man 138 to 193 plus annuals, or just one annual, I guess. And then we have an issue of Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, and Web of Spider-Man. That's going to be the Lifetheft storyline that's at the end. And then the Amazing Spider-Man Ashcan edition, which I was just talking about, because that's the cover. Mark Begley is a cool artist. I think he's great. I like his style. I don't know, some people don't like him, but I think that he does a really good job of bridging that classic Spidey style with kind of the extreme Todd McFarlane style. It's kind of a blend in between both. And so you get the dynamic parts of the 90s, but you also get a lot of the sensibilities of the classic comics, which I think is really great. And so that's why I really appreciate this era of Spider-Man a lot. This one is, of course, a Hulk story. This is the period right before the Clone Saga. So if you're collecting those old Clone Saga epic, the complete Clone Saga epic and the complete Ben Reilly Saga epics, this epic, well, those ones are called epics, but they're not epic collections as we know and love that term, although they're just as fat as it and everything. This book butts up right up against the back or the beginning of the complete Clone Saga epic. Not, I was about to say epic collections, but no. So if you are trying to collect a full run of Amazing Spider-Man, there are no issues in between this volume, Lifetheft, and the first Clone Saga book. You've got the whole thing there. There's some weird stuff here with Peter Parker's parents. Oh yeah, here's an annual with a big Carnage story. This story is also going to be in Carnage Epic Collection Volume 1, which is coming out next year. Stephen Butler. It's a big, long story, really, really long. Stephen Butler is another character that another artist that I think is quite good with kind of bridging that gap between classic and modern in this era. But then there's some backup stories. Okay, let's see here. Peter Parker's parents are around in this volume. This is kind of the conclusion to their story, and so we get to find out a little bit about that. But here's the Lifetheft storyline. Oh yeah, no, Lifetheft isn't the crossover that I'm thinking of. The Vulture steals Peter Parker's. This is a comic trope, isn't it? Right here. When the good guys turn really, really old. It seems to happen to everybody, especially Captain America a bunch of times. But Vulture becomes young. There's Peter and his mom and dad. But then stuff happens to them, of course. Their story is concluded in this issue. And then here we have Pursuit. That's what I'm thinking of. Pursuit is the crossover story. This is kind of the beginning of when Spider-Man went from being on 4 monthly titles to essentially 1 weekly title. Okay, we've got some comments here. It says, this might be peak Bagley for me. His Spidey changes after his duration on Ultimate Spider-Man and never goes back to being as solid and adult as he looks here. And let's see, Jesse says, was Bagley doing double art duties on another comic while doing Spidey? Actually, he was, yes. I believe at this time he was also doing Thunderbolts. It's around this time. It might be... No, actually, Thunderbolts was a result of Heroes Reborn. So we're not quite at the Heroes Reborn stage at this point, but he might have been doing like New Warriors or something. He was one of those guys that kind of worked on multiple titles at the same time. Okay, Pursuit. More Pursuit. Alex Saviok. Salvi Sema artwork. There's a cool picture of Venom and Carnage. What is this one for? The cover of Wizard number 36. Okay, so and then it concludes, Pursuit concludes in this one, and then I think we have one more crossover story. The Shrieking. With a new character, Shriek, who I haven't seen it, but I think that that was after... I think that Shriek appears in the Carnage movie that just came out. Anyway, so this is... We're not going to go too far into this. There's some spoilers I want to skip over here. But we do get a lot of bonus features. Here's the Ashcan. The Ashcan is a black and white little mini comic that was used as a preview and kind of is often used to announce a title that was coming up or be a placeholder for a trademark or that kind of thing. So there's the cover right there. There we go. That's it. I will say also that these all have the new cover price of $45 or $56.25 Canadian. And there is the spine image. Okay, that's that one. Now we're going to take a break from the 90s for a little bit and look at X-Men. This is volume 8, called I, Magneto. Chris Claremont, Dave Cockrum, and Michael Golden on the cover credits. Cyclops gets to be on the spine. This is volume 8. The defining story of the X-Men's greatest adversary, Magneto. This one is a good volume if you are a big fan of Magneto. It's going to collect Uncanny X-Men 144 to 153, annual number 5, Avengers annual 10, Bizarre Adventures 27, and material from Marvel Fanfare number 1 to 4. That's the Savage Land story. We'll take a look at that. There has been some questions as to the mapping of this book because there's some continuity issues that had to be addressed. Where do you put the Marvel Fanfare issues? Where do you put Avengers Annual number 10? And yeah, this is how they chose to map it here. So you can choose whether or not you agree with this. But man, there is some great stuff. This issue here is one of the first X-Men issues that I read with Despair. I found it in a back issue bin when I was a kid and was able to read it, and I love it. So I'm glad that this volume kicks off with this one here. Brent Anderson is the guest penciler, with Joe Rubenstein doing the inks. So very cool stuff. Man Thing. So okay, let's go forward a little bit in time here. Okay, well, this is a great period of X-Men. This is leading up to the landmark 150th issue. And if you are a fan of Chris Claremont, then this is kind of like, it's just amazing to me that it went from like, Dark Phoenix Saga and Days of Future Past, and then this storyline, this volume here is just full of good stuff as well. It's like he just kind of had hit after hit. He knew how to play his characters off of each other, and it's just wonderful, wonderful stuff. So this is a volume that I've only read bits and pieces of in the past. I've never actually read all of these issues in sequence. So when I do get about to reading them, I will be very excited because lots of great goodies in here. Going to Murder World. Lots of, look at all that dialogue. Chris Claremont did like to put a lot of dialogue on his pages, but that's okay. Let's see here. Another classic cover right there. I want to get ahead to the issues with, let's see if I can find them. Dazzler and Spider-Woman are in this one. There's Magneto, great pose. Oh yeah, who remembers this costume? This is Shadowcat's early costume when she wasn't called Shadowcat yet. She's called, I can't remember if she was going by Sprite or Ariel at this point. She went through a few changes at this time because she was trying to find her identity, and that was kind of cool little story, little character arc for her. Oh yeah, here we go. So the infamous Avengers number 10 is included in this one. It says a cameo appearance by the X-Men, and so the X-Men don't feature too heavily in this, but this is really a Rogue story. This is Rogue features prominently in here as she battles all the X-Men, or the Avengers for the first time, and this is also a story where, let's see if we can get to here. Actually, maybe I shouldn't say any spoilers, but there's some resolution to a previous thing. Okay, and then of course the landmark 150, X-Men versus Magneto. Magneto, kind of defining his character and really kind of giving a little bit of his some of his backstory and why he behaves the way he does. It's really, really great. So you can see here. Oh, I've got some questions. Sorry, I'm not following up here. Adam says the cover to Magneto is just so classic and epic. Tommy says Uncanny X-Men 144 is the issue just after Byrne left. That's right. So this is a good jumping on point. Well, not a great jumping on point, I mean, because it's still the middle of Chris Claremont's run. But if it's a fresh start with after John Byrne had left. And Tommy says, yeah, she was going by Ariel at this time here. Just some great stuff. I love this 70s aesthetic in the artwork here. Or are we still in the 70s? I don't even know. Oh no, we're at the beginning of the 80s in this part, 1981, 1982. But still great. Man, there is so much here. So okay, let's skip that back to the beginning. The Fantastic Four are in this issue. Which one is this? X-Men Annual, number 5. That's great. I haven't read this annual, so I know nothing about it, but it looks pretty fun. And then after that, I think we get into our Marvel Fanfare stories. Where does that come? I'm going to show you the cover to that. Here we go. Yeah, Marvel Fanfare. Spider-Man and Archangel and Kazaar. And this is a series by Chris Claremont and Michael Golden. I can't remember if it was supposed to be like a miniseries or something that just never got placed anywhere. So Marvel Fanfare was a series that was used to kind of showcase those stories that never got showcased anywhere else. They kind of fell between the cracks, and so that's why we have this serial in here. It's written by Claremont, so it works really well within the context of this volume here. And to be perfectly honest, I haven't read this one yet, so I can't comment on the story itself, but it looks pretty cool. Okay, anyway, let's skip on ahead a little bit, check out some of these bonus features. Oh yeah, we have a few stories from Bizarre Adventures as bonus features in the back here. This is a magazine, so it's black and white. They do a really good job with the ink wash shading, which is very cool. And there's a couple stories, one of Jean Grey, one of Iceman. I remember reading this Iceman story. It was colorized and included in a book I have called X-Men Rarities. And then we have some bonus pages. Here's my Indigo receipt. And they're on the cover of Crazy. That was a humor magazine that Marvel was publishing at the time. And the Savage Land trade. So there we go. That is our X-Men, our walk through X-Men. Coming up next, let's take a look at this one, Iron Man. Iron Man, this one's called In the Hands of Evil, and this was originally going to be called In the Hands of the Mandarin because that's the actual, it's like a 10 or 12 part story in here called In the Hands of the Mandarin, but I don't know if they changed it just because Mandarin itself is not the as politically correct of a character as it should be these days. Or, he's a very different character than what shows up in the Shang-Chi movie, and I don't know if they wanted to distance themselves from those comparisons. No idea. Anyway, we have this. We have Iron Man. This logo's kind of off to the side. That caused a little stir when in my Epic Collection group. But I think it looks nice. I think it looks nice off to the side there. I like it when the logos, it they play with the logo a little bit. This cover is like this because Captain America is actually in a coma. He is injured. Iron Man has shrunk down really, really small, and he's going to perform some surgery. You can see his little scalpel tray right here. He's going inside Captain America. That's why he looks like he's swimming on this cover. He's not flying. He's swimming through whatever fluids are inside Captain America. So that's where he's at there. This is, look at all those creators there. They go through a few different, those are all credited because we're going to see a bunch of other issues in this book, including some issues of War Machine and Force Works, and also Marvel Comics Presents. These issues are the In the Hands of the Mandarin crossover story. But then we also get Iron Man number 310 and 318. Daniel says, what in the magic school bus is going on here? Very true, very true. So this is 1994 to 1945. You can see the price is also at the $45. And then Iron Man featured on the back cover. Let's take a look through here. Whoops. These books, one of the things about having the thick pages is that doesn't open as much as well as you'd want it to. Because the pages are so coarse, but the trade-off is you get nice thick pages. So you can see it starts right off with the hands of the Mandarin, all of these parts here, and even coming down to part 4 of 6. There's actually, it's kind of weird because there are these little parts that are like in between the chapters that have to do with the story but aren't really part of the story. Here's the prologue, and then it kind of does a few things, and then it gets into the actual story here. Oh, it's only 6 parts, not as big as I thought. Anyway, let's take a look at this. Force Works. This was the West Coast Avengers changed into Force Works during the 90s, just like New Mutants turned into X-Force. Kind of doing the same thing there, trying to make it a little bit more edgy. But look at this, all of these splash pages. You don't get any sort of conventional panel layouts. It's all big and bold and bombastic, and part of it looks pretty cool. But this is I've never followed Iron Man. I've never really been an Iron Man fan, so I can't say that I've read any of these issues here. So when I get around to reading this epic collection as well, it'll be my first time going through these issues. The War Machine issues here are by Scott Benson, Len Kaminsky, and Gabriel Gecko is doing the artwork here. I kind of like his style. It's a little bit more simplistic. It's some of it looks a little on the amateurish side, and I don't know if Gabriel Gecko went on to do anything important, but I do like his rendering of the armor. It's pretty cool. Whoops. And then the Iron Man issues here are from Len Kaminsky and Tom Morgan. And I like Tom Morgan. I think he's a good, solid storyteller as well. He's one of these guys that, again, was trying a little bit. He tried a little too hard, I think, to try and bridge the gap between the old style and new style as that transition in the 90s. And he went a little bit too far in his later days. Like you can see some of these cheesecake poses. But he's a good, solid artist. And then Force Works. Check out this team. If you ever watched the Iron Man cartoon, the Force Works team were kind of the they were the supporting cast with Spider-Woman and Scarlet Witch and U.S. Agent and that guy there, Sentry, and War Machine, of course, always. And we have Abnett and Lanning. They were the ones who were writing this title at the time, and Dave Taylor doing pencils. I don't recognize Dave Taylor at all, and but he's again a little. I don't know. He looks a little 90s, doesn't he? We'll see how these issues hold up when I go to read them, but I'm not expecting a whole lot. Then yeah, the Marvel Comics Presents issues. Full bleed art as well, so we don't get page numbers on all of the pages. We only get them on pages where there's the white border surrounding the artwork. Or red. We do get it on those pages too. Yeah, if you are not a fan of any of these characters, then this probably isn't the volume for you because they are very, very prominent throughout this story here. In the Hands of the Mandarin, more Force Works. The covers are nice. They really pumped this title up, or this story up, with the nice title pages on all of these issues. It's something that they didn't really do a whole lot. But I mean, you had to have a space where you could tell what was happening in the previous issues for people who were only buying one of the titles. But we have a 48-page gut-busting conclusion. Just what I always wanted. Not too bad. Certainly not, well, there's my Indigo receipt. Certainly not the best of the 90s, which is probably why this stuff hasn't ever been collected. No, actually, that's not true. In the Hands of the Mandarin did have a trade collection before this, but the stuff that came after, like this going through the Captain America's body. Here's something I want to bring up here. So they started using a lot of computer effects around this time, and it's hard to scan and reproduce these computer effects without actually just going in and completely redoing them. So the quality of the restoration on the computer generated effects is not great, because they literally just kind of scanned it and laid it over top of the restoration that they were doing on this stuff. And that's pretty typical of this era. Anytime you see the computer effects, it doesn't reproduce as well as when it was originally printed. And I don't know how that works, but there you go. Oh, Black Widow's in this one. That's cool. Crimson Dynamo. Plenty of action. What a difference between the beginning. Like, you can see even the difference between the color here and where the color is kind of going here, where the computer is kind of taking over. Quite a big difference. But they're still using the same kind of color sensibilities as old comics, like, you know, putting everything in magenta here is Jim Steranka would do this kind of thing all the time. But we have just more variations in the gradients and the colors because of the computer coloring. But so we have a weird transition. They're using computer colors, but they're still coloring it as if it were an old comic, using the old color techniques and such. So there we go. So let's kind of flip through the rest of this here. Go in. Here's a Iron Man and Force Works collector's preview. They did a bunch of these collector's previews at the time. There's one in Generation X Volume 1. And there's just interviews with all of the creative team. There's big articles on, the major storylines. And there's even going to be stuff about the Iron Man cartoon, which was around at the time, I believe. It doesn't all have to do with this volume in particular, but it's cool stuff. And of course, there's a Fred Hembeck cartoon. I always appreciate that. Action figures. Anyway, that's a lot in the way of bonus features. Here we've got some more swimsuit pinups, original art, trade covers, and there we go. Iron Man, Volume 20. Okay, what's next on the list? That's all we have for November. Now we're going to get into the December books, starting with Conan the Barbarian. This one is called Queen of the Black Coast, and it's volume 4, covering a period in 1974 to 1976. This one has a $40 price tag. I think because it is, 200 pages less than all of the other Epic collections. Conan the Barbarian, number 43 to 59, plus material from Savage Sword of Conan number 1. Who's on the spine? Of course. Oh, nope, it's not Conan. It's the Queen of the Black Coast. Who's the real Conan? There's another classic comic trope there for you. Let's see here. So we start with the Savage Sword of Conan storyline, The Curse of the Undead Man. Sorry, my camera's going all over the place, trying to get a good handle on how to hold this book. Savage Sword was the magazine, the Conan magazine, and so all of these pages are black and white as they all were back in the day. There, they've reprinted it as is. And then we get to the regular issues. Austin says that he just read this, and it's very good. Glad to hear it. I've read the first volume so far, and it's excellent. We can see Red Sonja's in this issue here. And this is Roy Thomas and John Buscema. Of course, they had a very, very long run. And this is just classic artwork. I don't know. I don't have much to say about this because I'm only just beginning my Conan journey now. I've never read any Conan. I've seen the movie, and I've read now the first Epic collection, but I haven't read any more, and I don't really know the history of these characters and such. But man, I just love John Buscema's artwork, and this is a Joe Sinnott and John Buscema. What a great combo that's going to be. I have read the What If issues, and they were kind of produced around this time, I believe, and it's just they're so good. The concept of Conan is really great, and I love that first volume. So this one, did it include the letters page? Oh, an essay, a speculative essay by Fred Blosser. And there's a cool image. Barry Windsor Smith. I don't know if you are, I can't remember which colorist it is that posts on Facebook about how he doesn't like all the modern recoloring in here because it's too vibrant and too saturated. And I think that, while I understand what he's talking about, it stands out even more with the Conan stuff than the superhero stuff, because the superhero stuff, I think we expect to have the bright, primary colors and such, but with Conan being a more dirty, down to earth kind of a book, maybe some of the high contrast oranges and yellows and whatnot pop a little too much in the Conan page. Anyway, this book is still using the thicker paper. Feels great. It has I'm getting some of the shine from my lamp, but it's matte, so it doesn't have a gloss shine to it. It's really quite good paper, and I can leave it open, and it's actually staying open, which is kind of fun. Norin Radius, or Radius, I guess, says, speaking of Conan, there's a King Conan on your site, if I recall. Was that planned as an epic at some point? So the King Conan Epic Collection is coming. It's actually King Conan Chronicles Epic Collection Volume 1, and it's coming. I don't know. I can't remember if we have a date for that yet, but it's sometime next year. It's coming after the conclusion of the Conan Chronicles. It's Dark Horse material. It's the Dark Horse King Conan stuff. So that's what we're seeing there. No word yet if we're going to get King Conan Marvel Years Epic Collections, but I assume that they'll come at some point. Especially since I think they announced the Omni, didn't they? The King Conan Marvel Years Omnibus is coming out. So once that has had its time, I'm sure that we'll see some epic collections, especially once the Dark Horse material is fully reprinted in epic collections. They'll be wanting something to fill that void, I'm sure. Very cool stuff. I'm excited to read this book. Of course, we have a map. I love these maps. The maps where they say where he is in every issue. It follows his journey, and I think that's very, very cool to get a good idea of the layout of the land, because he's always wandering. Great image. Doesn't that look like the Wolverine Weapon X image that Barry Windsor Smith did? Or maybe, yeah, I can't remember. Anyway, we get lots of bonus material here as well. Some a page from the calendar, Marvel calendar at the time, original art, some photo stats with some changes. They made a lot of changes. Every volume, it seems, they are able to show where some of the changes are. I'm not sure what I haven't. Oh, I see. This one says the mating dance. This one just says the love dance. I guess mating was a little too risky or risque at the time. Okay, now we're gonna go. Oh, Travis says about Conan. What an amazing era of comics, art, and storytelling. Yes, that's the 70s. They did it well. Now we're gonna jump back to the 90s for Avengers. Taking Aim, more of the Bob Harris run. with George Perez, Mike Deodato Jr., and although Black Widow is the only one wearing a bomber jacket, this is known as the bomber jacket era. Avengers gets a new logo. Who's on the cover? On the spine, Captain America. This is volume 6. We've got like 4 in a row now, I think. I can't remember. Oh no, this one jumped ahead a little bit. Volume 26. Let me see. Avengers, we got 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and then we missed 25 and we skipped ahead to 26. So I don't know why they skipped ahead a volume, but we did. Higher price, $45. Avengers 378 to 388, plus this weird one, double feature Avengers Giant Man. I think it was Avengers was a flip book at the time. And then we also have a Vision miniseries, which I actually didn't even know existed until this book came out. And then Captain America 140 and 141, which is part of a crossover story. Okay, so Steve Epting is doing the artwork here, I think. Is it Steve Epting still? Or let me just check to see what's going on. Stuart Johnson, he must be a guest penciler. I'm not familiar with that name. Anybody heard of Stuart Johnson before? Okay, so we have another question. Noran Radius says the Avengers is a thick one due to the paper used, and yes, this one is using paper that has more bulk to it, so it does appear a lot thicker. And then we're going to look at Deadpool next, and there will be a contrast, so we'll take a look at that in a second here. What is going on with these issues here? I have no idea. I don't know anything about this era of Avengers as well. Exciting. This is all stuff that hasn't been collected before, and I was not digging the back issue bins for these Avengers issues, so I haven't read these. So this is great to be able to fill in these gaps. I'm excited to take a look and see what was up with Rambo Hercules here, Thunderstrike, Black Widow. There's some cool characters. But yeah, I mean, this is the 90s, and it looks it. There's a high evolutionary. Lots of drama going on with Crystal and Quicksilver at the time. Let's keep going. To be continued. And then we have an issue of Captain America. This is why there's no cover on that one. Oh, this must be the backup story or something. There's some original art. So in this volume, because of the 2-page spreads, they decided to intersperse the bonus features between the issues instead of at the back. So you'll have to go hunting for the bonus stuff if you want it. Yeah, look at all of this. Not too bad, not too bad. Kind of a weird face on her. Playing with the shadows, I like that. So here's the double feature. Avengers double feature, Giant Man. It says here, Avengers, these issues of Avengers were also published as deluxe editions titled Marvel Double Feature Avengers Giant Man, which included the following 4-part Giant Man adventure as a flip book story on the reverse. So there we go. We get all of those stories in here. I'm glad they included that. That's kind of a nice bonus. Oh, there is a giant naked lady in the swimming pool. I don't look at all of these mouths. I think I'm not a fan of how they curve like that, and the bottom jaw juts out quite a bit. They're all doing it. Okay, let's keep on going here. Let's skip ahead a little bit. Here's the Vision miniseries. I like that logo. So is this that's Steve Epting doing the cover, but the inside is Manny Clark. There's a whole bunch of names in the 90s here that I'm just not familiar with. They were expanding the titles, of course. They were producing a lot of titles, which meant they had to get more talent. They couldn't rely on the same old people. A lot of the old guard was also retiring around this age as well. So there's a lot of change happening at Marvel. And that doesn't even talk about their bankruptcy issues that were going on at this time too. So anyway, 4-part story with Vision. That's going to be exciting to read. Then we get back to the main story. I don't know who this character, the purple-faced woman, is. Let's keep on flipping through here. Yeah, I'm coming up on an hour almost in this video, and I've still got 4 more books to go through. So I'm going to skip ahead. Here's the Taking Aim story. Here's where Captain America, this is a crossover with Captain America. So this is where we see his title come in. Let's get to one of his title pages. Oh, we have a sideways page, everybody. I don't know if any of the pages are spoilers. Hopefully not. There's Captain America, 441. Bucky's there. I don't know why. Okay, some bonus features. Are there any bonus features at the back? Not really. Some more pinup, some swimsuit pages. And then I'm assuming that's a trade collection. Ultron Unbound trade paperback. There you go. Okay, that's Avengers. Let's go on to the next one. I don't know what the title of this book is. I have no idea which character it is because there's no title character on this one. Okay, yes, this is Deadpool. Yes, there was a mistake. The early solicits when it came out showed that this had a title on the cover, but for some reason, yeah. Oh, okay, so let's see here. BB says, just got on. About how much longer will you be on? Well, I'm just starting this Deadpool book, and then I've got these 3 to go through as well. So I'm going to guess maybe another, let's say, half an hour. My guess here, because we saw the version of this cover with the logo, my guess is that whoever was proofing this or whoever sent it to the printer accidentally clicked off the layer that included the title and didn't realize it, and then created their PDF and sent that off to the printer. And, you know, once it goes to the printer, they go straight to the distribution house after that. So no one gets to even see the books in between, which is, you know, you'll get a proof copy or something. But once this whole thing is run, the print run is run, they're not gonna pulp all these books just because the title is missing. And honestly, as long as it's on the spine, I don't think it really matters. I mean, it'd be nice to have the title, but as long as it's here, because this is what I see on my bookshelf, I'll barely ever see this cover once it's on my bookshelf. Okay, so let's see here. There's Deadpool. The circle chase that comes from his the first miniseries, and on the back cover we have Doctor Strange. This is when I was talking earlier about the title that he had called the Secret Defenders. Well, we've got some Secret Defenders issues in this book. Of course, his first appearance in New Mutants number 98, and then we have actually excerpts from a bunch of different X-Force issues, more than just what's shown here. We've got an issue of Nomad, the Circle Chase, which is the first Deadpool miniseries, Secret Defenders storyline, the second Deadpool miniseries, and then material from Avengers and Silver Sable. And of course, we've got the $45 price tag right there as well. This book has different paper. I'll say that right off the bat. It's still printed, I think. Where's the information here? Still printed by Solisco printers, the same printing one, but they used different paper. Now, my guess is we've all heard, well, hopefully we've all heard the news about the paper shortage. My guess is that they just ran out of the stuff they were using before, but Marvel wants to keep their books on schedule, so they're like, okay, well, we have this other paper. It's a little shiny. You can see that it's not terribly shiny. I wouldn't call it full gloss. Definitely not glossy like what Marvel uses for their modern comics, but it's definitely more glossy than the paper that they were using before. So it's like, I don't know if you call that semi-gloss or what. It also is a little bit thinner. Now, it's not cheap paper. It still holds up. I don't think that there's a problem with it. It also doesn't show through like some of the other paper. When you're looking at, well, I mean, you can see a little bit of the shadow of the box on the other side. But I don't think it's nearly as bad as when they were making their paper, using the paper with like X Factor, Angel of Death. That one had really thin paper. However, this paper, because I think it's shinier, the ink is way more saturated. The ink looks like it piles on top of the paper a lot more. So the pages in general look a lot more saturated. All of the colors are just a little bit darker than I think they should be, because the paper, I think, is not absorbing the ink as much. X-Force #2. I had this comic as a kid. I think I still do somewhere. I think the cover is detached. BB says, someday you're going to rip a page doing one of these paper tests. And you know what? If I do, it'll be worth it, because then we'll know that it's bad quality paper. This one, I don't think it's terrible. It's not ideal, but it's also not the worst paper we've seen in Epic Collections. Okay, so let's flip through this a little bit. This is Rob Liefeld, of course. Everybody loves Rob, right? He does do some cool panel. I mean, I do like this one right there. It's just that his storytelling is not that great, and sometimes he just overuses his lines and his body proportions are odd. But that was the 90s, So we get some text recap pages here because storylines are happening and we just are plowing through. So these are kind of the excerpts. We're getting some excerpt pages that have to do with Deadpool's storyline. This is kind of similar to like the Black Widow Epic Collection, where they would pull out all of the relevant stuff to give Deadpool, or to give the character a good solid character arc as much as they can when they're just pulling out random pages. Man, when are we going to see Nomad collections? We were getting Nomad issues here in this Deadpool collection, and we're going to see some Nomad issues in the Daredevil book that we're going to talk about in a little bit. Here's another excerpt from pages of X-Force. And then I think Greg Capullo is on here now. Oh, Mark Pacella. Liefeld's still on plot. Fabian ECS has moved to script. Actually, I think he was always scripting. Yeah, some of these drawings are not as good as the others, that's for sure. Rob Liefeld, while some of his stuff is great, some of his stuff is not. He's inconsistent, so kind of get what you get. Deadpool number 15, or sorry, X-Force number 15. I think we have Chris. No, where is he? Oh yeah, here you are, Greg Capullo. I knew he joined the team at some point. This is the first issue. Let's skip ahead because we have an artist that I do like quite a bit. Up ahead here is Joe Madrera. And that's, what was that shiny cover? That looks kind of cool. Avengers number 366. Here we go. Joe Mad doing the first Deadpool miniseries. This is some early stuff from him, but I like his style. And he's very 90s. He's kind of the epitome of 90s. He is a lot more cartoony in his expressions. Doesn't go for the realism as much as some of the other classic artists, but I don't know. I like his style. I have read Circle Chase. I've read this story many, many years ago, and it's pretty fun. It does a lot to kind of define Deadpool's personality. He's still not quite the wisecracker. I mean, he's wisecracker, but not quite the wisecracker as he is going to be known for. And I don't think at this point we're even doing the fourth wall breaking. That's something that comes a little bit later. Get an issue of Silver Sable. Here's another one. When are we going to get a Silver Sable collection? I want to see that. This one has Daredevil in his Ultra 90s costume with the shoulder blades that will take your eye out. Here's the Secret Defenders. This one, I am not a fan at all of the artist that they've chosen for this issue, who is, let's see, Jerry DeClaire. Anyone know that name? I sure don't. But he has a few issues with his body proportions, especially like I can't stand the foreshortening on the arm here of Luke Cage. Just doesn't look right at all. Anyway, Deadpool's there, and we can see the shift. We went from all of these pages that had white borders to now we're into the full bleed. We're going full on 90s. And yeah, here are the Secret Defenders issues that I was mentioning before. And now we're into the second Deadpool miniseries, which is art with by Ian Churchill, I believe. So this is some cool stuff too. I hope that I don't know, give it a chance. Deadpool is, you have to really be into the character, I think, to really appreciate Deadpool. It's one of these guys where either you think he's super annoying and don't like him, or you think he's funny and you will appreciate all of this stuff. But these early issues, while I haven't read all of them, they're a lot of them are kind of fun. Some bonus material, mostly covers of previous collections. That's about it. Okay, that's Deadpool. So we've got a few more books to go here. Venom. This is the second Venom Epic Collection, and it's called Lethal Protector. And that takes its name from the first Venom miniseries, while this cover image comes from a crossover called Spirits of Venom. There's Venom and Ghost Rider on the cover, or on the spine, I mean. Again, with the $45 price tag. A couple issues of Amazing Spider-Man and the Trial of Venom one-shot. So this is the Web of Spider-Man, and then the Ghost Rider Blaze Spirits of Vengeance issues are the crossover, the Spirits of Venom crossover. Then we have the 6-issue Lethal Protector miniseries and some stories from Marvel Comics Presents. And of course, more issues of Amazing Spider-Man that just kind of tell a story. Now, here's a controversial art choice. Sam Keith. Personally, I love Sam Keith. I've been a big fan of the Max ever since I saw it on MTV as a kid. And I love seeing his work pop up, but he is very, very different. Let's just skip ahead to some of those issues right now before we go back to the old stuff. He's very, very different. He's very alternative and underground, and you have to appreciate, I think, artists who go against the grain in order to to like these. I love it. I think it's just fantastic. But I know that it's definitely not for everybody. So of course, Wolverine was a main character in, yeah, this is Sam Keith all over with the little strands of fabric. This is his signature stuff. He loves putting lots of hair. He loves his butt shots. That's Sam Keith in a nutshell right there. Wolverine was the star of Marvel Comics Presents, and Sam Keith did a lot of the stories, I think, with, I think Cyber, the introduction to Cyber was one of Sam Keith's stories as well. Okay, anyway, let's go back to the beginning here because there's some cool stuff. We get this great, there's There's my Amazon or my Indigo receipt. Of course, this is the 3-part Carnage origin story, which is going to be in an Epic Collection 3 times, because it's going to be here, it'll be in Amazing Spider-Man, and it's also going to be in Carnage Epic Collection Volume 1 that's coming out next year. This is the same paper that you got from in the Deadpool. It's a little shiny. I actually really like this origin of Carnage story. I think it's a lot of fun. When Spider-Man and Venom team up kind of for the first time, it's a major turning point in Venom's career, where he realizes that he and Spider-Man can work together, and he's, he still doesn't like him, but what are you going to do? There's a bigger threat. And that's kind of the turn to being a protector, a lethal protector, rather than a villain. And so, yeah, here we have the Venom trial by jury storyline, the one-shot. Really going crazy with that mouth. Look at that. Venom doesn't get that big mouth in the movies. Hobgoblin and Demogoblin. Yes, this is the 90s. And then here's the Spirits of Vengeance, or the Spirits of Venom crossover with Ghost Rider. There's one really cool cover that I gotta show you, because I had a big poster of this. See if I can find it. Not that one, although that's kind of a cool cover too. Where is it? This cover. I love this cover. They made a giant poster of it. It's Adam Kubert, I believe, and holding a flaming skull with all his drool dripping off his head. Had that one in my bedroom for a few years. Anyway, this artwork is it's pretty good. It's very 90s again. You have to appreciate the 90s. I think you have to have grown up in the 90s a lot to really get why this was so cool. And then, yes, we have a couple more Amazing Spider-Man issues. These are the transition issues from Spider-Man, like setting Venom up to go on his own and be his own hero. He moves out to San Francisco after this last altercation with Spider-Man. Then we get to the Lethal Protector miniseries. This is a Venom. They decided to give Venom a monthly series, but because #1 issues were so popular in the 90s, they decided, instead of giving him starting at #1 and just keep on going, they made it into a series of miniseries. But they really followed each other 1 month, like right after the other. Whoops, my phone went off here. So it was really, man, technical difficulties here. I got to log myself back in. It was an ongoing title. It was an ongoing series, and I did an interview with Danny Fingeroth. You can find that on the epicmarvelpodcast.com, and you'll see that he talks about that a little bit, about the fact that it was an ongoing series of miniseries. Okay, my phone's back. Let's solo that. I do have to say that the Epic Collections, if files already exist, like restored files, if they already exist, they use those in the Epic Collections instead of doing new restorations. Epic Collections, even though they have a high price tag, I think they're kind of considered the budget releases. This book here, I don't know if you can see if this shows up in the camera as well as it, but yeah, you can't really see, but if there are kind of white halos around all of the lines in this gray here, and that is just a bad scan job, because they have used a zipatone pattern on this to give it a gray, but it doesn't reproduce well when you have a bad scan of it. These are the same files they used in the old Lethal Protector trade paperback had the same issues, and I complained about it back then, and they didn't do anything to change it. I'm sure it's the same way in the omnibus as well. If ever the Masterworks get to the 90s, that's probably when they will do a better restoration of this. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it here. You can kind of tell. There's like a halo, a little white glow around all of those lines. Shouldn't be there. Anyway, that's me being picky. It doesn't really affect the enjoyment of these issues at all. We've got some Ron Lim art here. Bagley does the first few issues, and then he hands it over to Ron Lim to do the rest of it. And then we get lots of bonus features. Lots of pinups. Lots and lots. And that's Venom, Volume 2, Lethal Protector. Now let's move on over to Daredevil, Man Without Fear. Have you ever seen Daredevil riding a horse? Well, here you go. This one's called Dead Man's Hand because it's going to be... This is the story I was thinking. It's a 10-part story, not the other one. So Chichester is writing it. Nicieza does, I think, the Punisher issues, maybe? I can't remember. And this is an interesting book because we get to see kind of the transformation of Scott McDaniel's artwork. And I'll show you this in a second, but here's volume 16, $45. Here are the issues collected. Daredevil 301 to 311. So not that many issues of Daredevil proper, but that's because we're getting 3 issues of Nomad and 3 issues of Punisher War Journal as well as an annual. There's Lee Weeks. So this is, there's major stuff happens in the volume before this that really kind of shake up the status quo of Daredevil. So it's important, I think, that you read that issue first and then come back to this one where it picks up kind of the aftermath of what's going on here. MC Wyman is the artist of this first story here, and I remember hearing, I can't remember if it was Frank or Michael saying that anytime they see MC Wyman's name on a book, they run for the hills. They head for the hills. They do not like this guy at all, and I can understand that. He's a little amateurish and not quite up to the speed. What's going on in that panel? What's Daredevil doing with his hand? Yeah, we get a lot of the owl in these early issues here. There's one cool issue, see if I can find it, that I enjoyed. Is it this one? Yeah, 34 hours. It's kind of like a day in the life. They take you through kind of an hour at a time, following Daredevil as he patrols and does his thing. Ron Garney is the artist in this issue, so there's some very cool stuff. And you can see the timestamp at the top of every page. I like it when they do some fun storytelling techniques like that. And let's see. Whoa, I lost my spot. Okay, so this one here is, this is Scott McDaniel. So I want to show this. Scott McDaniel, I think, is known for Nightwing, and of course the Daredevil story Fall from Grace, which is very, very stylized. And he goes through a transformation where he purposely reinvents his art style. And so this is what he looked like before. It's kind of generic. It looks like, you know, any other 90s book at the time. The inking in this one is Bud LaRosa. And then as we move through these issues, and I'm going to just skip ahead so we can see the difference. Once we get to the end of the book, we can definitely see that Scott McDaniel is changing his style to be way more stylized, and like this looks like the stuff he ends up doing in Fall from Grace. With the shadows, a lot of the yeah, a lot of the dark shadows and the playing around with the panel arrangements. Things like all the glass shattering around. And it becomes even more stylized. But yeah, his panel layouts like this kind of thing is stuff that he does all throughout Fall from Grace. And in my opinion, it wasn't for the better. It kind of made him a little bit harder to read. It's very convoluted in some places, very experimental. But yeah, that's Scott McDaniel. And then in the middle, we have the big storyline where he teams up with Nomad and the Punisher. So we get issues of Nomad in here. Here, in fact, here's that Daredevil, the Deadpool issue. We get this one again in this book, in case you didn't have enough of it. Punisher War Journal with JR doing the cover there. He doesn't do the insides. Who does the insides? Hebert. All of these names I'm not familiar with, but I do like, that looks kind of cool with the lighting. This is a long story, and I haven't read it, so I'll get to it eventually and hopefully do a podcast episode about that with Adam Chapman. But this kind of bridges the gap. It's a gap filler. This is unreprinted material. This is stuff that hasn't been reprinted before, so it's nice to have a volume like that, and it falls right in between the last volume plus Fall from Grace, I believe. We should have, let me just double check to make sure I'm not lying. Dead Man's Hand, no, there's one more volume after this, number 17, because Fall from Grace is volume 18, so there's one more. And then after that, I think we've got a full run from Andesenti all the way to the end. Once we get that one more volume, volume 17, all the way to the end of Daredevil volume 1, right before the Marvel Knights reboot. So that'll be from 1986 all the way to 1988. And then they have no choice but to get to the Frank Miller stuff, because there's really not much left to reprint for Daredevil. We're coming up to the last few remaining volumes, which is kind of cool. Okay, last book. I thank you all for the ones of you who have stuck with me through this long video. This is not an epic collection, but I wanted to show you this because, you know, all of us people who are collecting the epic collections love this era of Marvel, so we got to take a look at this. Tomb of Dracula, Complete Collection, Volume 5, with Dracula on the spine. This one collects the end of Tomb of Dracula, number 55 to 70. These are the last issues of this story, of this series. The whole series is collected, and we also have material from Marvel Preview number 12 and Savage Sword of Conan number 26. Which I'll talk about in a second because that's kind of a cool inclusion. And then also Stoker's Dracula number 2 to 4, which is a good choice. I'm glad they put this in here because in the Dracula magazine that they've been reprinting alongside these issues in the other collections, they've been serializing Roy Thomas's adaptation of the Dracula novel, like the original novel. But then it was never completed in those magazines, and but then years later they ended up completing it. So let's see here. This is using the same shiny, thin paper as before. A lot of people were not happy when they saw that their Tomb of Dracula was like this. You can see the glare on that a little bit, but again, it's not flimsy. It actually holds up well, but we have the same sort of issue with some of the dark saturation because of this paper here. But luckily, the artwork still shines through. This is classic Gene Colan and Tom Palmer artwork. Gotta love his style. He's very moody, suits Dracula super well. Here's my Indigo receipt again. And they were a consistent art team all the way to the end of the book, to the very last chapter. So we get a lot of fun stories. Here's one with Blade. This is the cover. The restoration of these is really nice as well. No issues with the way that these stories look in this book. But Tomb of Dracula is a great read. I've read 3 volumes of it so far, and they are fun, just really great stories. Some of them are very hard-hitting. They make you think. Marv Wolfman is the writer. So let's see if I can find some of these bonus issues that are stuck in the middle here. Here we go. The Haunt of Horror. There's just one Dracula story in here, so they included that. Okay, we're going to answer some questions here. Draco says, I really want to read Tomb of Dracula, but by the time I got into these trades, the first couple were out of print already. I hope it and Werewolf by Night get reprinted in either this or Omniform. Yeah, I'm sure they will, especially Tomb of Dracula. It is something that Marvel seems to always be keeping in print in one form or another, whether it's Omnibus or the Essentials or whatever. So I am hopeful that we will see some reprints of that. It seems to be one of their favorite titles. So the inclusion of these black and white stories means that there's actually a parental advisory warning on the back, because they can get a little bit more mature in their content, as you can see from some of these pages here. There's always, I say this in my podcast episodes, there's definitely sexual overtones to whenever Dracula is sucking blood out of somebody, especially because he always goes after women. And they're just a lot more straightforward with that in the magazine issues. Okay, and then there's also this Conan story that I want to try to find for you. But so the end of the series they go a little bit more extreme in these kind of weird places. Dracula has always been a little bit more grounded in kind of like smaller scale stories, but it looks to me like he's going to be facing off. I saw a guy with laser eyes and the giant demon. They're definitely ramping it up a bit. But this is good stuff. I've totally enjoyed the first 3 volumes of this. Batwings over Transylvania. Death of the Night Stalker, that's a cool cover. Okay, I think we're coming up to the end here. Here's the last page of Dracula. I always hated this. What is with the coloring on his eyeballs there to make him look like he's cross-eyed? They really should have fixed that. It looks terrible for the finale. Anyway, Savage Sword of Conan has a story, a Dracula story with Solomon Kane. And this can only happen with the, it says here, reprinted with permission, because Solomon Kane is a Robert E. Howard creation. This is a copyrighted character. So get this book while you can, because once the Conan license expires and Marvel's no longer doing work with Robert E. Howard's estate, they're not going to be able to reprint this story. So if they do reprint this complete collection, it will be without this, or they just won't reprint it. Now that's probably years away, because I don't see the Dracula relationship, the Conan relationship with Marvel ending anytime soon, so you probably don't have to worry about that for quite a while. Okay, so we can see the modern Marvel logo here. This is how recently these issues were published. They finished the story, and see if we can get an explanation here. The first 7 chapters of Roy Thomas and Dick Giordano's adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula appeared In Dracula Lives, numbers 5 to 8, and then 10 to 11, and Legion of Monsters number 1. They're all collected in volumes 2 to 4 of this trade paperback series. The adaptation stalled after that, but 30 years later, these two guys reunited to finish the project as a 4-issue miniseries. So issues 1 and 2 reprinted all the material that we see in volumes 2 and 4, and then the new chapters begin at the end of issue number 2 and continue through issue number 3 and 4. So that's what we are going to see in these here, and they even replicate the old black and white style with the ink wash, even though they could have gone more modern, but they kept it in that style, which is very, very cool. So I am looking forward to reading this as well. I've read the book, the original book, and I love it. It's such a great story. I love the way it's told as well, through a series of letters and writings instead of, typical narration. And then at the end of this book here, we have a lot of bonus material. We have articles that appeared in previous editions. We have covers, concept artwork. We have a lot of this stuff from the Bram Stoker adaptation because it's newer and it was saved. So a lot of that stuff is what makes up the bonus features here. But we do get some original Gene Colan art pre-inked, so you get to see what his work was like before the inker touched it. So I think that's an extra special treat. Very cool to see. Oh man, just like, holy cow. He's so good. He's so good. Gene Colan is amazing. Okay, one more comment here from Phil. He says, I don't think that was a great way to do it. They should put all the chapters together. While I agree that it would have been a better reading experience, I do like the fact that because the magazine was serialized, they serialized those issues throughout the volumes. I mean, that's basically what Tomb of Dracula is as well, is just serialized. But if you want, Marvel did actually do a trade paperback and a hardcover version, I believe, of the complete Bram Stoker's Dracula adaptation, all the chapters. That's it. So you can try to track that down, although I think it's already out of print. But when I go to do this, because I've done the first 3 volumes for the podcast already, but I've only covered the Tomb of Dracula issues. I haven't covered the Dracula Lives issues at all. I will be we'll be doing Dracula Lives afterwards, and we'll probably save the Bram Stoker Dracula stories for very last. Okay, well that's it. That's the whole stack, ending with this book right here. So if you are interested in any of these books, get them while you can, because it seems like the Epic Collection books don't last as long as they probably should in the market. They go to print quite quickly. And honestly, some of you are bothered by the quality of the paper. My honest opinion is that it's not as bad as it could be. I mean, I know that's not great to say. It's not bad paper. It holds up. I think that the paper that was used in this book here, X Factor, Angel of Death, this is way thinner. You can feel it even when you're just like, when you're touching it, it's way thinner. So I got a comparison for you here. So this Daredevil book, and I got to dig it out of my big stack here. This Fantastic Four book. Let me just double check to make sure I'm right. This has about 490 pages, and this Daredevil book has about 460. So which book was I comparing it to? I should have written this down. Maybe it was Spider-Man? 400. Oh yeah, okay. So these two books have same page count. This one is the better, thicker paper, and this is the newer, thinner paper, but they have the same, I don't know how I'm going to show this to you. They have the same page count, and it's not that much thinner. It's, I don't know. Okay, you know what? I'm going to have to turn my second screen back on so I can show you. Bear with me here, folks. Let's see if I can do this. Figure out a way to show you on my desk here. Get these out of the way. This is what live streams are all about, right? Okay, side by side. Here's the thickness difference. It is actually pretty big difference. Same page count, but this one has the better paper. This has the thinner paper. The cover stock is the same. For those of you who are thinking that the cover stock is any different, it feels exactly the same. I don't think that they changed that at all. Same with the Dracula cover. Somebody was saying that they felt like it was really thin and curling, but it feels exactly the same as the book with the thicker paper. So I don't think there's any difference in that. But there you go. That's my opinion on things there. How many pages does this X Factor book have? X Factor has 477, so it's pretty much exactly the same page count as Daredevil. Let's compare these two. So, whoops, did I just bump myself out of the... Let's see here. So, yep, X Factor is even shorter. There's a little bit of a difference. It's just a matter of like a couple of millimeters, but yeah, it is shorter than the Daredevil book because it has just slightly thinner paper. There you go. Okay, that's it for me. An hour and a half. That was a lot. I'll try and do these on a monthly basis, and it won't be nearly as long because we'll just do 1 month at a time, and that'll be maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 epics instead of 10. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. This was fun. I appreciate your comments. Your comments are great. Let's see. We got a few more comments here. I hope Marvel will reprint the Tomb of Dracula Omnis. Omnis and the first complete collection volumes are all out of print. You're right. They are all out of print. But that's because Dracula seems to be very, very popular. Scoop them up while you can. Once they reprint them, don't sit on them again. BB says, thanks for your time and insight. Have a great weekend. Thanks for watching. Phil, thanks, Kurtis. I'm filing this live stream under a reminder of why I hate the 90s. Yeah, there's a lot of 90s there. John says some of those new books are starting to feel really cheap. That's true. They are cheaper, feeling cheaper. Not as cheap as they could get, though. I don't think pages feel like they're going to fall out. Brian says, thanks for the video. Appreciate your time and effort. Not a problem, Brian. Maybe Jeremy, says, I got Generation X in the mail today and was surprised at how thick it was since Dark Phoenix Saga was very thin. Yeah, that's the difference. Dark Phoenix was using this thinner paper, the same paper as X Factor. And Generation X is using the thicker paper, the same paper as the stuff that we were looking at today. James says, which epic collection are you looking forward to the most this year? For the rest of the year here in 2022? Oh boy, I really am looking forward to the next volume of Fantastic Four, which is called Nobody Gets Out Alive. It's more DeFalco and Paul Ryan stuff. I love that story. I think it's really, really great. Of course, the second volume of Generation X is coming out, and I love that stuff too. Also looking forward to the debuts of She-Hulk and Ghost Rider in the Epic Collections coming out soon too. N-Man says, I must have missed all of the epics with the bad paper. I believe most of these bad ones seem to be epics of material that has been repeated tons of time. The unreleased material ones seem good. Well, this one has some unreleased material, I think. This one has a whole bunch of unreleased material, and this is the one we were talking about has some thin paper. So that one is unfortunate. But you're right, most of this stuff has been reprinted before, so, I mean, you can cherry pick your collections, but if you're one that wants to have a whole run in just epic collections, then, you know, it's too bad that they have varying quality paper. BB says, Phil wanted me to ask this for him. Any chance of reprinting Venom #1 in better quality? Venom #1 isn't bad quality, I don't think. I think that one actually is pretty decent. It's better than Volume 2. Okay. James says, always a delight. Thanks. Okay, I think everyone's signing off here. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I will see you next time. I'll be back next week with some more podcast episodes. And stay tuned, because in February, we should be seeing the next round of Epic Collection announcements in February. So that'll take us up to the end, the announcements from September to December of 2022. Then we'll have the full lineup of 2022 books. We'll know what's coming up. So stay tuned for that. Check me out on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. You can join my Epic Collection Facebook group. Just search for Epic Collections. And of course, like and subscribe this video. I appreciate all your subscribes. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers. So if we can just kind of push it over the edge there, that would be wonderful. That would be kind of a nice little first milestone for my YouTube channel. Anyway, thanks everybody. And I will play my theme song to see us out. Have a great, what day is it today? Friday? Have a great weekend.